Welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish, the podcast where we sit down with neighbors, experts, and friends to explore the stories, the questions, and the big little issues that shape life in our town, one conversation at a time. If you've ever felt socially isolated or maybe lonely, whether you're a resident of Antigonish who's lived here forever or a student that's new to town, we've got guests on today's show who have made it their mission to help fix this problem. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish. This is Justin, still here without Anuj, although he will be back next week. You finally get to hear his beautiful voice yet again. I am here today with Elizabeth Yeo, Vice President of Students, and Emilie Chiasson. Did I pronounce your name in a Frenchish enough way?
V.
Perfect. Emilie Chiasson, who works in Alumni Engagement at StFX, and you probably recognize her. She's quite a prominent figure about town, and recognize her writing as a freelance writer about all the things happening here in Antigonish. And today we are here to talk about, I'm going to say, community and social engagement is sort of a broad umbrella term, because you're both working with, Elizabeth, you're working with the students. Emilie, you're working with sort of people on a broader scope having to do with connection. But specifically, we're here to talk about GenWell, which is an event coming up. You get to tell us all about that. So what is this happening? What is GenWell? How did you get involved? What's going on?
Sure. So in my previous life, I was the regional director with Ovarian Cancer Canada. And at the same time I was doing that role, Movember was really big.
That's the mustache growing thing.
Mustaches for prostate cancer.
Okay.
They raised $45 million in 1 year. And so Pete, that was CEO of Movember, I got to be friends with him because we were in similar space. He ended up leaving Movember and he started an organization called GenWell because he saw a need for stronger social connection with people. And he saw the power of a movement like they did at Movember. So for about the last 10 years or so, I've been following his path in growing GenWell. At first, it was just him, and now he has a team, and they're moving and shaking all over the world. They just got recognized by the World Health Organization. And as a person, I have been, constantly thinking about connection and community building and how we interact as people within our communities and how technology has really caused such a decline in how we connect with each other. And social isolation and loneliness and all the epidemics of mental health that everybody talks about all the time now. So I've been wanting to do something with GenWell for a while, and now in my role at StFX in Alumni Engagement, it was a good time to be like, hey, there's a synergy here with the work I'm doing. So I connected with Elizabeth, who, of course, it's a big part of her work. And so she already knew about GenWell. And so we were like, let's do something on StFX campus, but as well something for the broader community to participate in too.
Great. So the specifics about GenWell coming here, what is the event? When are they coming? What will they be doing on campus and off campus? What is the overall nature of this project?
Sure. So on Wednesday, October the 29th, they're going to come to campus, and we're going to do a roundtable discussion with community leaders in Antigonish who care about community building, about connection, about seniors, about children, about development, getting everybody around the table that aren't usually healthcare professionals, that perhaps don't interact with each other on a regular basis, but they're all dealing with this subject in some way in their professional lives and also just as humans. And then we're going to do a workshop that GenWell will facilitate, and that's going to be for StFX faculty, staff, and student leaders. And then at night in the Barrack Auditorium, there's going to be a keynote delivery by Pete, the CEO, and then Elizabeth and I are going to sit down with him and expand further on some of the topics, and then there'll be a Q&A for the public after that.
So you're collecting sort of the leaders of the community to elucidate the nature of the problem and then give them a tool set to go out in the community. This isn't an actual sort of event where you're connecting people who need to be connected, who are lonely or whatnot. You're trying to get the leaders to spread the message. Is that the idea?
Sure, but leaders could be lonely too.
That's true.
Right? Like, in fact, a lot of leaders are the lonely ones. It's, 6 in 10 Canadians say that they don't identify as having community.
Wow.
So that is a big thing. And, it's not just in big cities anymore. You see it here every day if you pay attention to people's behaviors.
Yeah.
So,
Elizabeth, you deal with students sort of in general, what specifically though, before we get into how GenWell fits in, what specifically is your role at the university as far as students go?
Sure. As VP students, there's a broad oversight of the student experience. And so I work across all of the different areas of the university to understand what students need, communicate what students need, advocate for students' needs, and make sure that we have the community services and supports in place so that they can flourish.
Right. So you're sort of troubleshooting anything that might crop up where there's a new concern for students.
Absolutely, but also being proactive. So our services are both responsive to the needs of the community as they emerge, but we do a lot of work in the more proactive space. So getting programming and messaging and action activities out there so that we are out getting ahead and performing much more educative role around topics like health and equity and mental health, and being quite working to be leaders in terms of the health of our community in support of students' education and their pathways.
Right. And so GenWell was already on your radar by the sounds of it. So tell us, the loneliness issue or the community connection issue, is that something you've been thinking about?
Absolutely. So I joined StFX 5 years ago in January of 2020. And then the pandemic, of course, joined us in March of 2020. Yeah. So keeping people connected and really responding to the needs of our community through a very challenging time in our society, and then the post-pandemic reality that our students are facing, we are seeing ongoing impacts of that in our community. So we think about that. We think about that a lot, and we've responded with a strategy, a student experience and opportunity plan that is really looking at ways that we can work together as a community to take a whole campus approach to making sure that all of our students can flourish while they're at university.
So I can imagine in the pandemic, the loneliness issue, the connection issue, that was the main issue for everybody and students as well. So I think that's easy to understand. Mm-hmm. But post-pandemic, tell us, what does it mean for a student to have a community or a social engagement issue? Because when you think of StFX, or any university really, but especially StFX, you think of social connection. That obviously students are always grouped together in large numbers. We see them, it's very visible. But that is not necessarily the case for everyone. So tell us about the current issues that you're seeing that students are talking about.
Sure, that's a great question. So, basically, university by its nature is structurally, while it is an amazing experience, and many of us look back on it with a lot of fondness about the experience, structurally, it is set up to be stressful. People come, they have to do assignments under deadlines. They are being tested. Young adulthood, the age of 18 to 24, is often when emerging, issues of mental health will present themselves. And the other important aspect of university life is that there are many transitions. So the transition in can be a very disruptive time in people's lives, the transition out. And so we see these as being the normal stressors of university life that we need to be supporting students through. And then also we have students who are coming with pre-existing mental health issues or barriers as a result of the social determinants of health. And so we work very hard to really surround students with an environment where they can access the supports that they need for any specific kind of personal issue that they have, but also we work very hard to support students to develop as a group the skills of resilience and healthy coping strategies for stress.
Yeah. So Emilie, this is a topic that interests you in general, and we know from all the things that you do, you're very connected to community and community building. So are there parallels that you've seen in the community for things that students are experiencing that different demographics in the community are also experiencing? I'm thinking people who live rurally or people who are older. What is the nature of the social deficit, as it were, for these groups?
Yeah, like I just wrote an article a few weeks ago about social connection for seniors. And so I talked to Dr. John Chiasson. He is getting ready to retire himself and is thinking about his own age and what his retirement looks like. And he's doing a lot of work with seniors and the Quebec. Seniors who are living in the RK specifically. So having people have social connection, having meaning, feeling part of something that maybe they don't feel anymore, living in the environments where they're being cared for very well, but that social aspect of it. So he has started programs that he got funding for where they're taking seniors out to the Quebec. They have story time and tea. They go for walks. They talk about nature. So that's been, a really important program for seniors here. But like the thing that I think about is just technology, right? And how it has caused so many doors to be closed and vibrant spaces to be empty. Like when on the poster for the event that we have, it's, earbuds out, eyes up, phones down, And so like when I walk down the street, you walk by people and it's like they're in a different world, with earbuds in. And I myself used to use earbuds a lot when I walk with my dog. And about 3 years ago, I stopped doing that because I thought, I'm missing out on the world around me. Like in Antigonish, people beep at you and wave all the time. And, if have your ears, you're not where you are. Right? Like you're somewhere else all the time. So I noticed that on campus, like if you go to Starbucks, for instance, it's very busy. I walk in there and I'm worried that like we are going to evolve, that our chin is connected to our chest somehow, because everyone is standing in line with their head down looking at their phone. Like no one looks at each other. Yeah. And so these are just observations that I make all the time and see like that a lot of these problems, like I was chatting with my niece in Halifax the other day, and in Halifax, there's not a lot of places for teenagers to go, just like we used to go to dances. They don't really have them anymore. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of whatever. Yeah. So anyway, Hillary said something about, and I don't even know if people would go if they had them, because it's kind of like you're in your room with your phone with your friends anyway. And I was like, oh, Hillary, no. That does not replace human connection.
Well, this
right?
is fascinating. I know that is a subject that crops up a lot in town discussions, the fact that there's no physical location for kids to go to and socialize. I know that that's just a main issue. And then the earbud thing is neat because these are your observations, but I can say I've had the same ones, and I've had discussions with my daughter and my nieces and nephews about the earbuds while at school or with their friends, because we, the older generation, we think this is a problem, whereas they think it's completely normal, and they will fight you over it. They will explain exactly why they are not going to take their earbuds out, which we've had literal fights about this. But Elizabeth, is this something you've noticed for the younger generation, the younger students on campus?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, we need to acknowledge that there's a lot of great things that technology brought us. There's a lot of through the pandemic, especially, technology was how we got connected. We stayed connected. And so it was so important to our health and the connections that we could have. And I think now I think we got into a bit of a habit. We got more used to connecting using technology. And I think we also got a little bit more used to the comforts of home and, chill in a movie, those kinds of things. And so coming out of that, there's a bit of an adjustment. And we also can really appreciate how earbuds in, you're doing something you enjoy with your earbuds. You're listening to music you like. You're listening to fantastic podcasts like this one. Yep. You're learning, and you're growing that way. So I think that's where some of the resistance probably comes from, because that is very, it's giving to people's own development in a way that's very individualized. But I think it comes back to balance and moderation, and really understanding that that you also need that social connection. And the social connection, there's a broad range of research that shows that that's a very important component, essential component of mental health. And the piece of it that really resonates for StFX is, at StFX, of course, founded on these principles of, community and service and commitment to social justice. And really that beauty of the GenWell message is that in fostering connection with others, you're supporting your own mental health and wellness, but you're also reaching out to others in the community, and you're supporting their health and wellness by making that connection. So it is ultimately a very StFX thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To do that, it's an act of service where that outreach and that connection, human to human, is inherently valuable in its own self, for its own sake, in supporting health and community. So this is why this topic has really resonated with me, and it supports every element of our student plan, our student experience plan. It's embedded in all the pieces, that value of connection and community to support student development and all of the pieces.
So in terms of a practical outcome from the GenWell events, when it comes to people in the community or students, do you imagine a scenario where you have more concrete plans for getting students out into the community, and to do what sorts of things were you thinking for students?
Well, I think it's going to be emergent. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of work that happens at the university. We are known for being a very engaged community, and I've loved watching the videos of the Societies Fair at Mulrooney Hall earlier this week. It was electric. The students were there, especially our first-year students were speaking to the upper-year students, and it was very vibrant, and you could tell that there was a thriving feeling about that environment. So part of what we want to do with bringing Pete to campus is to really, I think, center this idea of belonging, of setting this idea of connection and the connections with health, and see if there are ways that we can translate some of these ideas to action in a very concrete way. So, for example, at StFX, we run a mental health awareness week. And also GenWell runs some themed campaigns that perhaps there might be an interest in some student-led engagement. So, for example, they will run a campaign that's called Talking to Strangers. So, if there is interest that can emerge, we would be very happy to help support those kinds of campaigns on campus and really help that as a way to taking some of the theory and the discussion that we have about resilience and coping with stress, but really help students translate that to concrete action. Something as simple as taking out your earbuds when you're in the Starbucks lineup and having a conversation with the person in line in front of you, and understanding the tremendous impact that can ultimately have on mental health, especially when everybody is doing it in an intentional way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Emilie, is there something similar you're envisioning for the community specifically?
Same thing. It's just like maybe making small tweaks in your everyday behaviors, inviting somebody over to your house, getting groups of friends together, like not saying you're too busy, go to the park, talk to somebody, not to be afraid of each other. Like I always say to my nieces, I don't have my own kids. And I'm like, strangers are just people you don't know. and like most strangers are super cool.
Most of that is true.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's become this, we're kind of afraid of each other, this 24/7 media all the time and knowing about every bad thing that happens in the world. But yeah, like maybe go volunteer somewhere. Like a lot of organizations are really hungry for volunteers. Like whatever it is that like can just create some more connection, invite your neighbors over. Like I think that's a big thing that COVID really exemplified is that yes, COVID happened in 2020, but this had been percolating for a long time, right? And it's like, whoa, I don't know my neighbors. I don't know anybody. I am alone, is what a lot of people felt. Yeah. And that obviously exasperated over the pandemic. So yeah, it's like we've almost allowed these social connection, natural ways to be taken away from us in some way. It's like you go to the grocery store, you bag your own groceries, you book your flights online, you do your banking online, you're doing dating apps. Everything is like less personal. Yeah. And then, you get used to doing things efficiently but like efficiency takes away from connection. Sometimes, not all the time, but like it's just these little disintegrations all the time, and church, that used to be such a big community thing, separate of the religious component, but that doesn't really happen in a lot of communities or community halls. There are some great examples like Eriseg. That's a solid community, right? Sure. They're moving and shaking out there. They've got stuff going on. But those things are just, it affects health. Like there's stats that say that loneliness is as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah, and I know there's the research into social connections are the best predictor of your happiness, your overall happiness in life. Simply just the number of people you engage with. Yeah. That's real science is what that is. Yeah. So I know we've talked about emergency preparedness a few times on this podcast. And one of the things we talk a lot about is that there are neighbors that you have that you really need to connect with because during an emergency, it is your neighbors that you're going to rely on, especially older folks who may be living alone. So just in terms of like the emergency of things, like we need to know who our neighbors are just to make those connections. But in terms of this event, who is invited to it, who is coming to it, and what is it for the general public or have you invited specific people to come?
The evening portion is for general public. So Barrack Auditorium, we didn't actually verify it with our conference services, but I think it seats around 500 people.
It's big.
Yeah.
It's big.
So we would love to fill that room.
Absolutely.
With anyone who's listening right now.
Anybody who wants to come. Okay. Anybody who wants to learn about.
And was it Pete, his presentation, is that?
Yep.
Yeah. And so what can they expect to see?
Oh, well, he's a very dynamic, engaging speaker. Actually, Elizabeth was going to a conference that he was speaking at in June. So I kind of was able to go because she was going. So I went to see his presentation. And that was for university
student services leaders. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So Elizabeth's world of people across Canada were at this conference. And people came in. There was a few hundred people maybe it wasn't in an auditorium. It was like they could choose different speakers. So people came in and, Pete's like a very friendly, so it was a lighthearted energy. And it was like, as he kept talking, it was like, you could just see people. They started like smiling and they were nodding and then like questions and like the level of energy in the room. And, it was just, you could tell it's like this thing that we know we all need. Yeah. But we need like, it's almost like when I'm on an airplane and they say you can't smoke on the airplane. It's like, do they actually really have to say this still? But it's almost like that with this. It's like, do we actually have to tell people, that like, being part of something and knowing others is really important.
Yeah, you have to give people permission for some reason. Yeah, that's true.
Like, Esther Perel, I love her. I love everything she says. She's always like, you might have 2,000 friends online and you have nobody that could look after your dog.
Yes.
If you had to go away suddenly or an emergency happened or,
The strength of my relationships is based on how many people I could come to my house to look after my chickens. Because that's a big problem, looking after chickens. So if I can name half a dozen people, I figure I'm doing okay.
You're good.
Yeah.
But so the people attending this event, let's say if you're a community organizer in some way, this seems an obvious thing that you should be going to. But if you're just a student, for example, or a regular person, is it an event you could go to literally meet someone or to get involved with it? Yeah. So that's part of what you're hoping.
Yeah. Yeah, like maybe we'll do something to shake things up for people when they get there.
Yeah.
Like, you
That
know, you
sounds
just
ominous.
don't know. You just don't know what the surprises will be. But no, yeah, I think it's like when you know more, you know, when you know better, you do better. Or, you know, when you get these reminders, then it's like, yeah, I really should do that. Like, you know.
So really to underline the value of this and as a reminder. But I think, like we mentioned before, that ability to translate everything that we're saying to students about resilience and healthy coping strategies with stress, we're really helping them through this event to see ways to translate that to concrete action.
Yes.
The day-to-day things that they can do without doing anything extra, just embed it in how you go about your day that can have real strong knock-on effects for you as well as the other people that you're around.
Yeah, so making socialization a habit or small changes.
Small changes, but concrete actions that they can take.
So aside from this event that's coming up, what advice do the both of you have to either students or the general community for engaging in behaviors or getting involved in ways to make connections? I know a lot of people I've met, especially sort of middle-aged folks like me, say when they move to a new community, it's impossible to find people and make friends. It was a lot easier when you were a kid or when you're at university. So what advice do you have to students who are new to this town or the general public, us middle-aged folks who need friends? What would you say?
Invite people over to your house, right? Like invite people to do something with you. Like even I know like my house is it's on the bottom of Hawthorne Street. So I'm surrounded by students.
Right.
And I wrote an article this week actually about positive impacts that students have on our town, on us as individuals. And anyway, guy moved in next door and he has a dog and the dog was barking when he left one day. I was like, oh, there's a dog next door. This is my thinking, right? Yeah. There hadn't been a dog next door. So when he came back home, I said, oh, hi. I said, I could hear your dog barking. And right away, he was like, he thought I was going to get mad at him.
Yeah.
And I said, can I meet your dog? I love dogs.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, oh, his name's Chandler.
Oh, cool.
You know what I mean?
Good dog name.
So it's like, you know, this immediate assumption that like somebody's going to get mad at you or, you know, but it's like, just open your doors, open your heart, like ask questions, like, you know, smile at people, hold the door open.
I feel like I've lived in a bunch of places, including cities, and I feel like Antigonish is all about that sort of feeling. It's very friendly. But if you're coming from somewhere far away, I mean, Toronto would be the obvious thing. You're like, oh, if this person is unfriendly or standoffish, like, they're probably from the city is kind of my thinking. Because I feel like there's a mentality in this town of openness and friendliness and interest in getting to know your neighbors. Do you think that's true, or is that just, am I imagining this?
Oh, I think so.
Yes.
Like it's anybody that comes here. Like I went to meal hall this week and there was two girls sitting and one of them really looked like one of my nieces. So I went over to her and I said, you look so much like my niece. Look. And I showed them the picture and it ends up that they're both from France and they're here on exchange. Wow. And they expressed to me that they're like, we can't believe how lovely. They said in France, when you go to university, you just go to university. It's nothing about the student. And here there's like society night. They said there's people cheering. There's all these things. And like when we walk down the street, people look at us and they've been here for 3 weeks, right? Yeah. One was from Paris. Okay. And she said, I don't want to live in a big city. And coming here has really made me realize like how nice, smaller towns are, right? So, but even though we have that je ne sais quoi that Antigonish does have, it still is something that has infiltrated in, people beeping horns and, giving each other the finger in traffic. It's like, what is that?
Yeah,
like,
that's city
where
stuff.
is that coming
None
from?
of that, yeah.
Don't do that,
So, Elizabeth, what do you when you talk to students and you're counseling them
Sure.
on this? Like, what advice do you have for them to either get involved on campus or off
Or
campus?
off campus, sure. Well, I think we're very blessed because StFX really is a very engaged community. That's part of the ethos of the place.
Yeah.
That emphasis on community and connection is already very strong. And the students who come here because they are attracted to that. And so that is a really good thing. And so what we really encourage them to do is get engaged. So they're in many communities. They're in their residence community. Of course, 90% of our first-year students live in residence. So that's a tremendous opportunity for us to help build community. So we do a lot of activities for students in residence to make it easier for them to get involved. So we really encourage them to come out. We've changed our whole model of supporting students in residence to a much more relational and restorative model where we talk about community and making sure that as you're going about your day-to-day life that you're being very respectful and not creating harm to your community. And we work with students on that, always reinforcing the impact of their actions and to be thinking of each other and looking after each other in community. So getting involved in all the residence activities that we have to offer, coming out of your room, when you're feeling
every teenager, every parent of a teenager says the same thing. You got to get out of your room.
And when you're inclined to stay in your room and scroll, that's your signal to get out and engage. There's going to be people there. In your classrooms, introduce yourself to the people around you. Come out to a society night and either engage in something you already know you're interested in or try something completely new and open up your horizons and meet a whole new group of people. They're so welcoming. We talk about, StFX is a very rich kind of after hours community, and especially in the sense
very,
of
very tactfully put. A very rich after hours community. Well done. Yes, we all know what you mean.
Well, actually, what I was referring to is the lectures.
I see. Okay, that's what we meant. Yes, those late night philosophy lectures.
Come out to those events and really engage. But and we also have a whole program for students. It's called our Good Neighbours program, and that focuses on the larger community too. So not only being respectful to your neighbors in your residence community, but when you're out and about in the streets of Antigonish, to say hello, to notice your environment, to notice the people around you, and for those who are living off campus, to get to know their neighbors, to take the time to introduce themselves and to think of themselves not as residents of StFX or here to be a StFX student, but they're also a resident of Antigonish. They're part of this community. Yeah. And so act as a neighbor and, reach out and get to know people around you.
So is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you want to make sure people understand about either the GenWell as an organization or the event that's coming up or the loneliness epidemic in general?
Sure. I think something that's cool is that StFX is the first university in Canada that is doing a GenWell Day. And Antigonish, as being part of StFX, we're the first sort of town that is doing this in Canada.
Cool.
They've had lots of bits of, this municipality or, this organization but not like a community, a university that's coming together to talk about this subject. So I think that's really neat. They're really pumped about it.
Yeah,
Like Pete has expressed to us that he's talking about this, like here's this town and this university who are actually already known for being very friendly and neighborly and connected. And they're like, you know what? I think we need to tweak our focus a little bit, so like StFX, as Elizabeth said, that's what we're known for. You don't want that to slip away, right?
Sure. And it could level up at the end of this, it sounds like. We could be world famous for being a connected, happy town.
Yeah.
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 Which is good for
well,
everybody.
That's what you do. You build on your strengths, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a significant strength that our communities enjoy. And so I think there's a very fertile ground that we're spreading this message to, and we're really excited about what could come of it.
And really, it's going back to the Antigonish movement. Yes.
So many things come back to that. It is true. But I mean, that's sort of lived in the blood of this town for generations, I feel like. And this is another manifestation of that. It has to be. People get behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're from here. This bubbled up in your brain. I'm sure it was something from your youth, from being part of this town.
Absolutely. Like growing up, both big families on my parents' side. And what would we do if we were bored? We'd go visit someone.
Sure.
Because we didn't have Netflix and didn't have a cell phone. There was one phone, right? So it'd be go visit somebody with mom and dad and then I remember for me specifically, when I graduated from StFX, I moved to Toronto and I loved Toronto. We had so much fun there, big group of girlfriends. And I remember I was living, fun fact, cousins, Alicia, Amy, Sarah, and Emily, people got a big kick out of that in Toronto, 4 cousins, from Nova Scotia. But anyway, I remember there was this old Italian lady lived across the street from me, and an older Italian lady lived beside me. And so Frida, that was beside us, she used to go see her husband in a home every day. But the lady across the street, she lived alone, and I used to go over and she'd be sweeping and I'd bring her back applesauce whenever I'd come back from visiting Nova Scotia. And then I hadn't seen her in a little bit. And then one day I saw her house was like being cleaned out. And so I went over and I was like, what's going on? And Alfreda. And they said, oh, she died.
Oh my gosh.
And her house was sold in estate. Yeah, she had nobody to give her. And I was like, my neighbor died and I didn't even know. Like, I was like, I don't think this place is my values.
Yeah.
It's not my vibe, right?
So now you're back.
I just remember that being, and then it was like Halifax was like a step back from big city, but because it still has like that, small town feel to it. And then in moving back here, I mean, that's one of the best parts of my day is that there are so many wonderful people here.
For sure. So if people want to find more information about GenWell or about the upcoming events, where do they go? Online, I'm sure, although they should be just walking into town to find you in person.
Yes.
But assuming they're not doing that, where should they go?
We don't have that like right now when we're taping this, but there'll be posters around town, and we'll put something on the website on StFX events.
Okay,
or
it'll crop up.
Yeah.
So the students will all see this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Okay, well, I thank you both for coming in, taking the time out of your busy days, and hanging out with us. And it's also nice to meet you because we have not met before. Now we are connected.
There we are.
And so we are part of the system.
Now that I know you, I'll know you.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming in. It's great to see you again. And enjoy your day and say hello to strangers on the street.
Yes, talk to strangers.
Yeah, talk to strangers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Antigonish. If you like the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe. Just go to letstalkantigonish.ca and click. Voila! You'll receive new episodes right in your email inbox.
This podcast is a labor of love. Please consider making a contribution, small or large, maybe a monthly subscription. Depending on the level of public support, we would like to engage local producers and journalists to create more regular deep dive news stories about life here in Antigonish.
Right now, it's just Anuj and I doing this in our free time. You can read all about the podcast and ways to support us at letstalkantigonish.ca. And if you're a local business that wants to sponsor the podcast or even place an audio ad, we are certainly not opposed. A huge thank you to all of our subscribers and especially our paid subscribers, which have helped us to buy the audio equipment that we needed to get this thing off the ground. And remember to get in touch with us if you have an idea for a future episode or a burning question about life in Antigonish that you want us to explore and get answers to. We welcome all feedback. Just email us at letstalkantigonish@gmail.com. Let's talk, Antigonish.